in New York City. It's not quite as pretty as Myrtle Beach, but it's getting warmer right in time for Easter. And boy, you guys, I'm so glad we're going to get to this segment about the chocolates because I had a blast with these kids going there.
I cannot wait to see it. Even that little clip is so funny. I was laughing out loud. And just the idea of being in such a dreamland, a Willy Wonka chocolate factory with an I Love Lucy moment. Hilarious. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about?
His chocolate beans are humanely procured because, as you know, child slavery out there. So there's a lot of good news behind this as well.
Coming up today, we're doing a fun cheerleading segment where Charlie's going to learn how to cheer. And I bring that up because at Raiders, some of our practices were held in the San Francisco Bay Area, right by the Ghirardelli chocolate factory.
I've lived
So we would smell the chocolate while, like, you'd be, like, starving and, like, dancing. You were like, oh, my gosh, it was the worst torture. But
I know exactly where that's at. And I know exactly. You're right.
Why can't we do a chocolate segment instead of a cheerleading segment?
we're doing that.
We are doing it.
Yes.
You want to
No,
do it?
instead of.
Oh, instead of. We're going to do both. You're gonna have the experience that Emily had of smelling chocolate while knowing you have to work out.
The war on men rolls on.
This show is becoming the war on men for him. He's had to do Pilates. He's had to do yoga.
It's just a little
Jazzercise.
This actually might be the
bottom of the barrel.
yeah.
Or
Or the peak.
the top, exactly.
All right.
Yeah, one or the other.
Well, we talk about the peak. We had our friend Stephen Moore on telling us about the tariff situation and how, even he, who is a, classic free trader, is starting to come around and say, maybe Trump is right about this one. Listen.
With tariffs, with absolutely no reciprocity. Mexico wouldn't take our corn. Australia won't take our beef. Honduras takes more of our meat, I think, than the EU combined.
Yep.
I mean, the odds were so stacked against us. And to Stephen Moore's point, under the Chinese reign of the last 20 years, we lost almost 4 million American jobs because of it. And then when the government tried to bail out, for example, farmers to the tune of $27 billion, well, 26 of that was tethered still to China. So at every inch of the way, we were under China's thumb. We were under these impossibly disparate situations. And no longer.
And China cheated all the time. Like, they would send their goods to Mexico to get our NAFTA benefits, right? So, I mean, there was all kinds of loopholes. And again, powerful people were benefiting on some level. Somebody was on some of that. And so there was little sort of political incentive to change it until Donald Trump came and said, no, I'm going to do this. And mind you, guys, he is, Elon Musk is not liking some of the stuff he's doing. He's going up against people who've even supported him. Some of his donors are not happy with this. And he's still doing it because he really believes it's the right thing to do.
And a lot of these things are things that Democrats used to support. But now that Donald Trump has picked up the mantle, they're suddenly against all of it and they're harping at him.
That's been awesome to watch, by the way.
Fantastic. And what you have left is a Democrat Party who's not part of this conversation, not contributing anything. It's a little bit like the border stuff. They have nothing to offer in the border discussions, but you have Democrats who are completely leaderless right now. You have a civil war going on within the party. You have, I would argue, all of the energy is now with the AOC, Bernie Sanders wing of the party. They're getting these huge crowds, but not everybody is
pilled, no question about it on some level. Is that why he's so skeptical of AOC, or is there still a huge appetite for that sort of, populist, socialist energy in the Democrat Party?
Well, I think we've seen it from the Democrat voices themselves. They say the media is obsessed with AOC. So I think what that sort of represents is the flashy, some say she revolutionized the party in terms of marketing, in terms of messaging. When you talk about actual policy, I mean, that's been soundly rejected by the establishment and certainly by the majority of Americans that elected President Trump as a result. But I think about what George Clooney said, where he talked about Governor Wes Moore, said, now that's a proper leader. So I think the distinction between AOC and if those in her party or those leaders that are calling for the sort of establishment Democrats is that they don't see her as serious. But at the end of the day, I think they can't undermine and they shouldn't question the amount of followers she has. To his point, it matters who turns out, yes, but someone needs to sort of harness her marketing magic and put it toward policy that's more tenable, because they're just going to be cannibalized again if they keep up with this. I mean,
is George Clooney just jealous? Because he totally wants to be the nominee.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, but also don't forget what the party did to Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And they'll do that to AOC if she...
If you're so right, Charlie, but that's if the machine is still going.
Right.
That machine was Barack Obama, who's lost a lot of cred for having backed all the wrong horses over the last several elections, truly, right?
And of course, we saw that powerlessness in full display over the past 6 months from, the end of
the coup.
As soon as they finished rigging the Democrat primary last year for Joe Biden, then everything fell apart.
That's right. All right. Well, Florida State University is holding a vision.
Thank you, Chanley. So grievously sad.
And we know Florida, by the way, is a death penalty state, and I have no doubt that they will bring the full force of the law. They will enforce it. Now we have, with AG Pam Bondi at the helm, too, there might be federal charges that that person is facing, deservedly so.
Turning now to your headlines.
Razor blades and go to that is my worst nightmare.
Sounds horrible.
Hot and like and it costs $1 million and what everyone is wearing and the musical act, just no thank you. A country festival, yes.
And there's not even like a bonfire. Like at least Burning Man, there's like they burned something. We could do that.
But the real news nugget in here is that these kids are doing it. They're doing it on credit, essentially, right? And I would love to be the Gen Xer who scolds them. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Are there 16-year-olds going to Coachella? I don't know. I think they're like college-age kids. My assumption is, but I
don't think
definitely
anybody
went
would
on
have given me
trips
a
I could
credit
not
card
afford.
when I was in college.
Huh? You didn't have a credit card?
When I was in college, I can't imagine I did.
They would push them on us. You'd go.
In college? You know,
oh
we're
my
the
God!
same
Yeah.
I got one that had an E on it and it was pink.
Totally.
I love your point. You're right. We didn't do that. But also, I feel like, and this is my judginess coming in about Coachella, but like a spring break, safe trip. I don't know. That's a better investment. This feels scarier and it feels like less predictable.
Oh no! Let me tell you where I went to spring break. I drove in my Volkswagen van with my Volkswagen car with my sister by ourselves down to Baja, California. That doesn't sound very safe right now.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was very fun. That was also on credit.
I mean, I'll tell you guys at the commercial break what I did when I was 16 for spring break. But I will say this. I think your point is well taken, which is fiduciary standards have been lowered. Fellow Gen Xers saying this, and if you don't have the money, don't do it. That's our advice.
Good lesson, but hard to follow it.
Be fiduciary.
Be fiduciary. All right. It was like be best. Was that was that Melania's going to change it to be fiduciary for our first lady on the couch today? All right. Ukrainian officials signing an agreement that could.
That's a live look at Annapolis, Maryland, and before that, a live look on Fox Square, where Charlie, you have a glimpse of what we are all going to be doing later when we learn some cheer dance moves from the Rutgers University cheer squad and yours truly.
I love cheerleaders. I love cheerleaders. I love watching cheerleaders.
I love cheerleaders too. I was a cheerleader in high school. I wasn't, but I was not as good. I didn't have the skill set to take it to the next level, to college or pro like you did. But you were a blonde at one point. So are you a real blonde or a real brunette?
No,
Am I allowed to ask that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a real brunette, and you are an amazing cheerleader. And I'm real. My hair color is this. It's dark brown. I'm Sicilian. But I was, do blondes have more fun? I don't know.
Did they?
But I certainly did as a Raiders cheerleader. And
Look at you.
One of the highlights, I have to say, was the traveling that we did. So I got to go on a USO tour, visiting the troops to Iraq and Kuwait in 2009. An extraordinary experience, especially to serve as an ambassador for all of the home goodwill for the troops and all those sports fans.
So I'm going to tell you this, Emily. So I was a young girl, a military brat living on Air Force bases in Europe my whole life. And when the cheerleaders came to the base, you weren't just cheering up the troops. I'm going to tell you what, I still have the headshot signed by the Dallas Cowboys, and the Raiders did come as well. And I just remember like going, these are the greatest women ever. I was like, this little thing, just looking up at them and their long legs. I was like, this is amazing. So you're not just cheering up the troops, you're bringing a little piece of America to the entire family. I didn't know that you did that. That's awesome.
Yes, and I love that point that as, you know, they're really ambassadors to the team. And that might be the only interaction someone has with that franchise their whole life. And for those cheerleaders to sort of embody that community spirit, the goodwill, and the appreciation for all the fans.
So when you're a cheerleader and you're traveling around the country, who are your bigger fans, men or women?
Oh, that's so good.
I would say everyone, and we don't travel.
Are you being diplomatic? Is this a Miss America answer?
World peace and everyone. Yes, yes. It's everyone. I mean, look at Rachel's story,
I was.
Where we had a program called Junior Raiderettes where we would teach little girls to dance. They would come perform with us at halftime.
That's awesome.
We always made sure to engage with the women. Absolutely. Look, the cheerleaders are for everyone.
Yeah. When I go to, like, I'm not a big sports person. He knows that. And, like, I'm watching the cheerleaders. It's so fun. I know a lot of men are too, but so am I.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to this segment. I'm mostly looking forward to Charlie doing the splits.
A high kick into splits, DCC style.
So looking forward to this as well. What I'm really looking forward to is getting back to the news.
All right.
And we have a Fox News alert.
So that's where we're at right now. Now, despite major backlash, Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen is defending. All right.
Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you, Maddie.
So the New York Times weighing in yesterday, offering a huge correction to the New York Times.
Had with the wife of this MS-13 illegal, because it was so damning. She couldn't bring herself to say anything nice about her husband in that moment. I mean, she couldn't say, yeah, that was him before, I feel safe now, or that's not exactly what happened. Nothing. She looked, actually, if you ask me, she looked terrified.
Yeah, and she hand wrote the motion that she filed with the court where she detailed her fears of her husband, talking about that he was violent, abusive, left bruises. And I see myself in that person who is looking at the screen to that individual and being like, yes, that could be my brother, an alleged gang member. That,
you know what?
Who's representing who?
No question about it, but it's also interesting. This is what liberals do. They conflate things, right? So there are three types of immigrants. There are ones who wait in line, do it the hard way, are patient, apply in their home country, do it the right way. By the way, that's my mother, a legal immigrant, married an American citizen, you know, did all the right stuff to become a citizen herself. Then you have people who came here illegally and are working hard and haven't done any other crimes. I talked about that kind of person with Donald Trump in an interview. I hope we can bring that back a little later on. And then there's these guys, right? These guys who are, you know, gang members who have beat their wives. And it's like somehow Democrats think this is a good idea. And even some activists, Charlie, you know, immigrant activists, let's conflate all three of those.
Right.
They're not the same.
And it's actually really insulting to legal immigrants.
Yes.
And that's the thing that has always sort of appalled me about it, is that it's such a slur on legal immigrants who do it the right way and come and contribute enormously to the country. It is a decision that people make. And in El Salvador, with the new president, they made the decision. They're going to crack down on this. You spoke earlier with Representative Claudia Tenney talking about the effort in El Salvador to crack down on this kind of crime. This earlier that you know, in your interviews that like literally there are neighborhoods that are completely in towns that are completely, like, even justice is meted out by some of these gangs.
Absolutely. Before President Bukele took office, the country was taken over. Towns would not call, you could not call the cops, because if you called the cops because something happened to you, you had a domestic violence situation, or you had some other crime happen to you, if you called the cops, you would get double punishment. The cops the gangs MS-13 wanted you to know, this town is run by us. And so the amount of effort it took for President Bukele to turn that around, to turn El Salvador around from being the murder capital of the world to the safest country in our Western Hemisphere. So safe, Charlie, that there are enclaves of El Salvadorans, like in the D.C. area, where a lot of them are like, we're heading back. It's safer there than some of the neighborhoods they're relegated to.
You don't want to get carjacked anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And the president mentioned that, by the way, when you talk about the depletion of crime or the erosion of crime because of the enforcement of law and order versus the erosion of crime because of the deporting of murderers and criminals. The president talked about that in the Oval Office yesterday. He said, yeah, Venezuelans' crime has plummeted weirdly over 72%. Over 11,000 convicted murderers were sent to the United States. Yeah. And that's when he was making the point, we're sending everyone back. To your point, it's the third column. It's these dangerous criminals that are not welcome.
And that's who he's getting right now. I mean, let's just be this is who he is supporting, people with records like this. All right, well, we've been talking all day about Hollywood's involvement in Democrat politics and how they just weren't able to pull it off, at least not this time. Here's a Wall Street Journal headline, even
in the real lights, under the bright lights, and no one will forget that
if your actor has dementia or is drunk or whatever, I mean, you can't fix that with Steven Spielberg.
Right.
And remember, he prepped for 9 days. So for 9 days, our commander-in-chief was hunkered down at Camp David playing, drama with these big A-list directors. And I think that sort of underscores the point of the Biden administration's focus the whole time. It was always on Hollywood, the celebs, the big name, totally ignoring the American people. Why wasn't he practicing policy? Why wasn't he interviewing the American people? What is important to you? What have I done that you've enjoyed? And then talk about that. The whole point is they were practicing the theatrics, the sham that he kept committing to, but obviously that failed.
It's such a great point, Emily, because what a contrast to Donald Trump, who is literally the complaint about Donald Trump is we can't train him for debates because he's not going to listen. He's going to do what he thinks, and that authenticity is what came through. Now, in the case of Joe Biden, what came through was dementia. Your theory is he was being gallant.
Yeah, he was being sort of nice to her, but there's something more nefarious about it. If it wasn't her that was behind all of it, then who was?
I know who it was. So first of all, this is my theory. Jill Biden wanted him to run. She felt insulted by the Obamas, who were never very nice to them. All right. Valerie Jarrett, Susan Rice, maybe the Pluff guy, but
the
definitely the Easter Bunny.
Yeah. They were all running the auto pen.
They were all. Listen, it was the open secret that there were black cars going between the Kalorama mansion, where Barack Obama and Valerie Jarrett were holed up, and the White House. And those are the people that were running
How do you run an auto pen with those giant bunny hands?
Yeah.
And how do you see through the bunny eye holes so you can run the auto pen?
Well, we do have. It's either they did it or the whole thing was running on autopilot. There's a lot of cabinet secretaries that would tell you things were running on autopilot during that time.
Autopilot, auto pen.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's turn now to some headlines. The second round of nuclear talk. Your headlines. The British are coming. The British are coming. I'm going to post a picture coming up because my children's school had the wax museum, and little Patrick, who did the chocolate, was Paul Revere. So I'll post that picture in honor of this because he looks adorable in it. So we'll have to do that.
And we were talking about how where you guys live, it's living history is all around them. It's right here.
I live right near Morristown.
Yeah. It's incredible for them to grow up.
Yeah, and the reenactments are so important because, humans are kind of dumb, and we kind of need to see things. We need to watch it play out, and those reenactments, especially for children, but also for adults, is really valuable.
It's totally valuable, totally about restoring our history. Aren't you surprised they have not been, ended during our woke era?
Don't give them any ideas.
No, it's just we're in a new era now. But
and you need to smell the gunpowder. The burning gunpowder is so important.
And see how long it takes to reload a musket.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Laura Trump joins us next after sitting down.
That sounds like a guy running for office. Here with more on this interview that's premiering tonight, the host of My View, Laura Trump. Laura, it's so great to have you on. Your show is fantastic, by the way. It's like a must-watch every single weekend. The guests and you, of course. But tell me more about this interview. What did you take away from this?
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited for tonight's episode. Not only do we have Mayor, and his answer was much like we've heard from so many people, which is that he says, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, it left me. It's a very wide-ranging interview, but look, he really wants to do, he says, the best for the people of New York City. He feels like the charges that were leveled against him, he goes into that a little bit.
It's great that he's sort of joining the common sense party, but you do sort of have to wonder, where was this common sense for the first couple of years of his administration when some really, really bad stuff was going down in his city?
Yeah, you do have to wonder about that. But he uses the word, Charlie, common sense. when I asked,
He did was leave the party, I guess.
yeah, maybe so.
Well, be sure to watch New York. Thank you so much for joining us. I will definitely be watching that interview.
Always do. Thanks,
Oh,
Laura.
thank you guys. Happy Easter.
You
Happy
too.
Easter.
You too. And
Great to be here. These numbers are really amazing. The Catholic
Right.
Church, we're talking about year-over-year increases of 30 to 70% of new converts.
show that it's mostly young people, which is
Mostly young people and mostly people who have
churches that are seeing these increase. The Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church. By the way, anecdotally, a lot of Catholics not happy with Pope Francis say maybe I should be Orthodox. I've had that discussion with Kennedy. Our own Kennedy is Orthodox, but I'm a Roman Catholic. Our traditions are ancient, right? They're 2,000 years old, you know, and is that part of the attraction?
I
in
think
your view?
so. I mean, before 1054, the Great Schism, there really was only one church.
How much of it has to do with biological reality as much as doctrinal, you know, stuff?
I think a lot of that. I mean, the Bible has a lot to say about this peace that they had that they did not have before.
Yeah, and to be fair, conservative Protestant sects
Yes,
are also seeing increases.
exactly,
So
and you
it's
actually
the
see-
traditionalism, I think, that is driving a lot of this.
What you see in conservative Protestantism is really...
Have you come back because I want to talk about the COVID part of this, which is so interesting, Lauren Green. There's always lots and lots of things to talk
lots
about
to
with
talk
you. All right, I want to promo here The Saints because The Saints is on Fox Nation. It is an amazing series. Martin Scorsese.
sure that people understand that this is Mary Magdalene that's being...
Well, Lauren Green, always great to have you, and happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you.
You got it. Let's turn now to Chief Meteorologist.
Oh, I used to be a cheerleader in the NFL for the Oakland Raiders. So why not break out some old moves and show the Fox and Friends anchors how it's done?
Yay!
All right.
The captains.
of the Rutgers University Scarlet Raiders cheerleading squad, Nydia, Sierra, and Kavana are here to help us out.
All right, show us the moves, girls.
Okay, so
We're gonna teach a toe touch.
yes,
Yes!
Toe touch.
yes.
Toe touch.
We're gonna demonstrate. Yes, it's a simple count. Ready? So we start 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. But you're actually gonna get off the ground. You're gonna actually jump. You're gonna have to jump.
We
Okay, do it one more time.
Guys,
Okay, we're
That's a
gonna.
lot of steps.
Should we show them the real
That's
thing?
like...
Yeah. We should. Okay, I think you guys need to spread out a bit so we can jump.
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Can I sleep?
5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That is dangerous. So you...
Charlie! Yeah! Charlie! Come on, Charlie!
I couldn't begin to do that.
try it. You got this. You got this.
Do you ever
All
get
right,
injured
show us
doing
another
that?
move, girls.
Show us another one. Another one.
Show us
What
how
should we
it's
do?
done.
A herky? Okay. Okay. So that's a jump to the side. It looks like this
I was good
in
at
the
these
air.
back in the day.
Yes.
All right, girls, let's go.
And your arms, they're going to be
Yes.
something called candlesticks. Yes. Okay, ready? 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah!
Amazing.
Yes. Okay, do you want to try this one?
We're wearing dresses.
We already did it.
I'm holding a piece of paper. I'm very limited.
Can you guys do something as a group?
Yes, you can. You guys, yeah, everyone show you guys a formation.
Yes.
Our last hour here at Fox and Friends, and we're all believers. And it's Saturday, Holy Saturday. We're on the eve here, right before Easter, and what a wonderful way to start the weekend off, huh?
Incredible. Brett Walker, thank you so much, singing Believer. And that's part of our Faith and Friends concert series. We have a full performance coming up, guys, so stay real close so that you won't miss the upcoming performance by Brett Walker. And if you missed any of the Faith and Friends concert series, you can always stream them on Fox Nation.
All right, you guys. Well, first of all, we talked a lot about this being the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War. Charlie did a great...
You know,
by
it's
the way,
kinda-
he doesn't speak Spanish.
But you know what's really neat about that, and I'm always reminded of this every Easter, because every Easter you reenact the Easter week.
Amen to that.
And it's for us stupid humans to understand, to like
right.
get it burned in to our memories, into our minds, into our hearts, what it's all about. And that's what's so great about those reenactments and dressing up in the colonial garb.
That's right.
You remind children that these things happened and that these were real people, and these real people did courageous, amazing things and we enjoy the blessings that they left us.
Yeah, and he didn't just have to dress up as Paul Revere. He had to memorize. Every child had to memorize a paragraph of information, and you would go in front and tap a button, and then each kid would say their part, and it's something they do at their school, and it was just amazing. And of course, you're so right. The reenactments have not been erased by woke culture. They're still around.
Try as they may. You know, it was just a year ago that we had then President Joe Biden recognizing Trans Awareness Day, Trans Visibility Day on Easter, but it's different now.
That's right. I spoke to Donald Trump about that, Charlie, when I interviewed him last week, saying, "Hey, what a difference a year makes." Last year on Easter, you know, Joe Biden poked an eye in the in the eye of Christians and declared Trans Visibility Day on the day that we celebrate Christ being risen. And I asked Donald Trump about that. Watch. Yeah, fair point. Maybe Biden didn't even know it was Trans Visibility Day.
Or Easter, for that matter.
Or Easter.
Definitely not. And we've talked about, you just spoke with Lauren Green about how people are coming out in droves and declaring their faith. And I think what we saw under the prior administration was, or actually what we saw was a formalized persecution and prosecution of Judeo-Christian culture, of Christians. We saw it weaponized DOJ. We saw protesters literally being prosecuted, octogenarians being prosecuted for protesting against abortions, worshipers not feeling safe going to Latin Mass because they knew they were on an FBI watch list. I mean, it was a horrible appropriation of our tax dollars, stamped at the top with Trans Visibility Day on Easter, on the day of resurrection, on the day that Jesus is risen. And now it feels as if we can finally worship freely, and that the sacrifices made by so many, including those in the Revolutionary War, which we're celebrating that 250-year mark of those first shots, that finally we can breathe again thanks to President Trump supporting our right to worship and our right to be Christian.
That office is inside of the White House, by the way. I mean, it's not like off in some building. He put that religious office in the White House.
Center.
It's such a departure. And the whole concept of trans visibility, whatever day, is that God made a bunch of mistakes, which is really kind of, I mean, it would be kind of shocking on any weekend, but on Easter weekend, you're like, really? God made, not only did God make a bunch of mistakes, but you are God because you're going to choose, you're going to decide that you're something that you're not. And it's a frightening, it's obviously it's a very dangerous direction to go in.
And by the way, that was one of the most remarkable moments from Donald Trump's address to Congress when he said, God made all of us perfectly, right? What a beautiful message. And Donald Trump, true to form. You know, we're going back in time a year to think about, Joe Biden. By the way, our first Catholic president, our second Catholic president did that, which makes it all the more shocking. But he does seem to have a thing about Easter, doesn't he, Charlie?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, everyone wonders who's in charge. And it turned out that it was the Easter Bunny who's in charge.
Can receive mercy, even though we do not deserve it. That level of love, that unconditional love, truly unfathomable. And it's the peace that surpasses all understanding. And what flies in the face of that is the notion that anything God created is less than imperfect. I mean, that's the message, that's the narrative that's been driven by the Democrats this entire time. And now, no longer, because we have now defenses and support and a freedom and openness, and hopefully all of this trans stuff is going to end too, because that tiny minority of the population that's sucking a lot of oxygen, hopefully won't be moving forward.
Well, there's other contrasts, you guys, and one of them, probably just as stark, is at the border. Last year, I took a remarkable trip down to the southern border, and one of the stops I made was at Jim and Sue Chilton's ranch. Now, these are, they are...
That was so poignant when you asked at the end, what's your message to the president? And it was his expression of gratitude for finally securing the borders and protecting the land that they own.
They're Americans. That's the least they deserve, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And those game cam footage of the people, it looks like a military operation. They've got backpacks. They've got those those cloth.
We're being allocated to illegal immigrants, or we're sorry, we have nothing left in the bank because we spent it all already on everything.
Well, and that's one of the things he said to me. He said, all the Border Patrol were busy processing. Nobody was available to guard our ranch. And now Donald Trump has put the military on those federal grounds. And they said it was like Night and day. By the way, you guys, funny moment, when I first went to meet him, I jumped out of our van and he was waiting by his truck and he said, "Hello, little lady." He said, "Hello, little lady, stick out your tongue." And I don't know why, I just did. Like, he's like a cowboy. I stuck out my tongue. And he said, "Just what I thought. The sharpest tongue on television." Isn't that the funniest story? That's what he said. He goes, "Yep, just as I thought, the sharpest tongue on television."
In addition to all that, he's a great judge of character.
Yeah, he is a good judge of character. These were the nicest, kindest, sweetest people. Left us with snacks for our way on our way out when we left. Just amazing people, and so glad to hear that they feel safer, as they should, on American land.
So great. All right, turning now to your headlines. New
TV that Charlie could get behind.
Oh, totally.
That's totally, I can totally
I
see
would
him
figure out
with
how
a
to
cigar,
use
watching the moose.
remote for that.
You guys, my girlfriend from law school lives in Alaska. She was from LA. She literally lives in Alaska now, and she gets moose in her yard all the time. So she sends me pictures. They are
Huge, right?
beyond humongous.
Yeah.
Yes, they're like.
And very dangerous.
And very dangerous, totally. Don't get in between the moms and their babies.
Yep.
But certainly beautiful. I'll be watching the cam. I watch my bird cams all the time, so I'll watch those too. Well, guys, next, as Democrats...
You should give me back all the money that I gave to you guys because of the cover-up. You guys told us to give you money because Joe Biden was going to be the best president. He was the one who's going to protect the country from this existential threat that was President Trump. And they did generational damage to the Democratic Party. And I don't think she can ever recover from that. She might be able to try to run for governor. They are so much worried about running against Trump now. He's not going to be on the ballot next time. So they got to find somebody new.
Such a
and
good
I actually
point.
don't think it's going to be any of the people that we were just talking about. I think it will be somebody different. So either someone from the private sector, but more likely a governor.
It's not AOC in your book.
It is not AOC, but I admire her. At least she's out there trying. I mean, Bernie Sanders is their biggest draw right now. He's older than Biden. So in 4 years, what are they thinking that's going to be? Oh, it's forced unity.
Yes, it's forced unity.
And talk to us, though, about the difference between AOC, who, says, like, fight the party and bring in the new progressives, and David Hogg, who was called a contemptible little twerp by David Carville. They're like, you could argue from the outside looking in.
I actually agree with Carville for once.
I actually think that they have a similar problem. So Bernie and AOC are pushing forward this progressive move, which the country just decided decisively. I'm for the money. But,
It's not environmental.
This book is a good companion to the previous one. That one was called
I wish somebody had told me.
From Me.
Yeah.
I wish somebody had told me to stop worrying so much in my 20s. Your 20s are so important. That's when you have to work really hard so that you can have a better work-life balance in the future. But I was so worried about how it was all going to turn out. And when I look back, everything... I wish I had listened.
Yeah, that should be the title of the book.
Totally. And there's so many contributors. I mean,
Like you're in there, yeah.
You got advice of Dierks Bentley, Brett. I mean, people, Fox personalities, and also
Yes.
huge megastars too.
Well, one of the things that happens is that as you continue to mentor to go into journalism or from print into broadcast, for Dierks Bentley, I asked him a lot about what is it like to deal with rejection and how do you overcome that and keep trying. And
so
it's
good.
interesting because people can get crushed by a no. And you don't have to be. So I realized I don't have all the answers. So I interviewed a lot of people, many people around Fox, and
Some of us
I
learned to get
love
used
this.
to rejection very early on. Like by the time I was 20, I had enjoyed so much rejection.
all the rejection.
But
So I
all
was
it takes
really
is
good
one
at it.
yes.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you got to keep.
Yeah, but
keep
thanks for
going.
having me on. I'm excited.
And we'll
for
have
it.
you on the sofa next week.
Yeah, so
Looking
Dana
forward to
is
that.
going to
Yeah.
co-host next Saturday. We're so excited. She's going to bring some surprises to the couch. She's already pitching some fun stuff. So
You just gave me another idea.
Oh, I love it. Make sure it humiliates Charlie.
doesn't
because
involve
that's been the theme.
cheerleaders,
Can't involve dancing, apparently. Well, guys, I wish someone had told me.
The village.
It does. Happy Easter.
All right. Happy Easter, Dana.
President Trump freezing federal funds.
Joins us now to discuss. Dr. Arnn, it's so great to have you on. Hillsdale, of course, a fabulous, amazing institution on the list of the 5 schools that I'm willing to pay for with my kids, by the way. That's the new rule in the Duffy household. We'll help you get through school, but we only have 5 on our list. If you want to do something else, you can pay for it yourself. I suggest everyone do that. But I think most Americans were shocked that as much money, that amount of money, millions and billions of dollars have been going to these elite schools that are really trying to undo everything we parents are trying to instill in our children.
Yeah, well, it seals them off from the parents, right? If 2.2 billion might be a third of, with hundreds of pages of rules. You know, people give money to Hillsdale College that we have to live too. But when your kid comes here, you'll have to pay tuition. We keep it cheap, but you know, nobody. We have a mission. It's old. If you like Hillsdale College, you can join up and be in it and give it some money if you want to. And it's all about that. And all that's from 1844 in our college. Whereas with, they don't like that, apparently, but so they're balking. But the solution is, don't take the money. You know, they have a lot of money. I bet they could make it work.
So that's such a fantastic point that I never thought about. But you really are separating parents and in a way, students from the university itself. Realistically speaking, what do you think would happen if suddenly I, as a taxpayer, was no longer giving billions of dollars to Harvard University? What would happen to the university?
Well, they have a lot of money. They have, you know, apparently they need a lot of money, but they have 50 good for them to do that too. Because it's like, you know, they're the richest academic institution in the world. And it's like, oh, dear, 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 don't tell us what to do, and we still get the money. And I just don't think that's a very good way to live. You know, I don't think it's good for them.
It's not good for the taxpayer either.
It's not.
And not the students who are
about
being subjected to anti-Semitism and being subjected to communist thought and socialist indoctrination. At the end of the day, the independence of Hillsdale College, for example, ensures that those kids get the classical education that they deserve, which teaches them to ask questions, not just receive a message and then go out and parrot it.
Yeah, see, everybody, the word college means partnership. Go ahead and be it. He's actually a very excellent man, and you know, he's a great guy. But you can argue all you want to, as long as you agree there's a common end, and then you can have a community.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, there's no transaction in Hillsdale College that is not voluntary. Everybody, if you want to send your kid there, you know, hard to get in, but I bet your kid's smart. Although I don't know anything about your husband, maybe he's dumb. But you know, so in other words, it's a community of people who've agreed to do this. Right. And that's what Harvard used to be. And I think ought to be again.
Yeah, but we don't know what changed it. We don't know if it was, you know, Marxism or a lot of government money. But I know a lot of taxpayers who didn't know that amount of money, if any, was going to our most elite private institutions who definitely don't need it because, as you said, they're sitting on piles and piles of cash in their endowments. Larry Arnn, thank you for joining us. Thank you for what you're doing at Hillsdale. It is a wonderful school that every parent should check out, and every student as well. So thanks for joining us, and happy Easter.
You guys are great.
Thank you. All right, well, it's time for another pop culture roundup, and this time we have Emily Compagno with us. Yay! Thank you. All right, so first up, actress Molly Ringwald dismissing the possibility of remaking the 1985 classic, The Breakfast Club, not because it shouldn't be remade, which it's an awesome movie. She says it doesn't have enough inclusivity. Watch.
I personally don't believe in remaking the world today.
Oh my God, Emily, what the heck?
Okay, so no way should this be remade.
Never.
But not for those reasons.
Never.
It's because it was perfect. It was
Totally
absolutely perfect. And every way they did. And by the way, I learned in this comment and in their pop verse that there was like backlash to her makeover of Ali Sheedy and that it was too glam. But no, they just cleaned up her face and it was perfect. And Molly Ringwald talked about that. She said, I wish that I had stood up for you more and just like taken off the makeup instead of a makeover. It was 80s at its finest.
It was so great. It was so 80s. Don't redo it and don't bore us with more racial, wokey stuff. Leave it alone.
Totally.
It's all good. All right, Martha Stewart And Wendy's taking digs at Katy Perry after the Blue Origin flight. Watch, Martha.
I boarded a Boeing 727 aircraft.
All right, so she did that, and she's basically, a lot of people saying, you know, it's great y'all did this, you have rich boyfriends that sent you up in space, but you're not really astronauts.
And none more important voice saying that than your husband.
You did weigh in on this.
Exactly. The secretary posted this, the crew who flew to space this week on an automated flight by Blue Origin. Kennedy wrote the funniest op-ed ever for the Daily Mail about them. She talked about how they were like the Lassie pack, shrieking like co-eds in a pillow fight.
They look fab, I'm just gonna say.
I mean, it is what it is, but it is not a space flight. It is not astronauts that we are seeing up there. It was a bunch of girls
Look at
on
the
a
drama
sorority jaunt.
kissing the ground. I love it. I will say, they did look amazing. The flight suits were worth the journey, I guess. But yeah, not astronauts. All right, this DC matchmaker says that political polarization is on steroids because liberals are refusing to date Trump voters and Tesla owners. So politics getting in the way of dating. I have a theory on dating, Emily, which is that you really should date within your own values, religion and politics. Marriage is hard enough. Why do you want to have something else to fight about?
Yes, and all of these statistics, interestingly centered in Washington, D.C., which I think is sort of anyone there identifies with their political party, probably much more than the rest of the United States. But as always, we see this prejudice happening from the left to the right, not the right to the left, right? We see everyone as valuable equally.
And see, what's happening is the permanent class in D.C. is liberal. And there's all these new Trump people in, and they're going, hey, let's date. And these guys, and the liberals are like, no. So I guess we're going to have to, they're like, no.
Be solo on Valentine's Day.
Charlie's mocking me off screen. All right, flip phone sales up. Now, this could help dating, by the way. Flip phone sales up 148%. And guess who's getting them? Gen Zers. They want more quiet, they want more focus, and they want to live in the moment. And I think that's going to help dating, by the way.
Totally. Living in the moment, getting away from your screens and actually getting to know the person. Yes. Also, I think what's going to change is the photographs, the constant photographs on smartphones. I think now, along with the flip phones, people are going to bring back regular cameras and being totally device-free. So I love this. This is a trend in the right direction. And I agree with you about the online dating, too, which I've always thought was freakish.
Oh, me and Sean get in fights about me being on my phone, you know? So, like, yeah, the phones are a problem in dating and in relationships.
Totally. And I feel like to that point, flip phones, it brings it back. You need something, you can make a call, and otherwise you are untethered.
Talking to someone on the phone? That's so ancient, but we should bring it back. I love it, Emily. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, she's awesome. All right, next we're going to turn to Chief Meteorologist Rick.
Brett Walker, thank you so much. And Allison, such beautiful music. So where can people find your music?
I think we said it clearly off air a second ago. No one is ever too far gone. Nice. There is a Savior that died for 100% of the people here on this earth.
I love it.
And no matter how far you feel gone, you're not too far gone.
Happy
God bless
Easter.
you.
Amen.
Happy
God bless
Easter.
you.
Tune in
Bye,
tomorrow.